Hi, my name is Chase McGuyan, and this is my capstone presentation, The Ins and Outs of Youth Group. What I've found from my experience in youth group, which was 7th through 12th grade, quite a long time, and now I'm actually a volunteer leader with my church's youth group. What I've found is that a good youth group environment is beneficial to the development and or continuation of a teenager's walk with God, and I hope to show how other youth groups can do the same as my youth group does. So, getting students to church, that's the first step. Um, there's certainly debates about how you should do that. As there is always in the church, let's be honest, we have debates a lot over, usually among denominational lines, about how to get students to come to church. But one way to get students to come to church is with youth events. But those often bring with them their own questions, as in how many should be held and how often, which ultimately comes down to what the church decides on a church by church basis. But obviously, it's going to be influenced by time of year, location. For me, my church is in San Diego. Location is a great thing, but if you're in, somewhere in the middle of nowhere or where it's really cold, you're not going to be able to go to the beach, for example, or do stuff all year round necessarily. Um, and then how much of the event should be actual message versus the fun aspect. Uh, this again comes down to the church by church basis, but it definitely depends on the event. Like if you're just going to the movie theaters to see a movie, you're not going to stand up in the middle of the movie and start preaching. Probably, at least I'd assume. But if you're going on like a missions trip, like my church sometimes does mission trips to Mexico because we're very close to the border. Obviously, that's going to be almost entirely message oriented. Um, Getting the students to pay attention is the next step. Let's be honest, having just been out of high school, I know that middle schoolers and high schoolers don't have the strongest attention spans, and there's some that very much want to pay attention, which is great, but that some just it's a struggle for them. So first step is to figure out how long you want to make your sermons. Typically, those are going to be shorter than the main service, the adults, if you will, because the adults because the adults don't want to wait on their kids getting out, but because main reason is that you probably don't want to take too long because the students are going to lose interest, unfortunately. And on that topic, you have to weigh how much you want to cater to the students who do not really want to pay attention versus those who do. For example, if a student's not paying attention, they're on their phone, do you decide to, ask them to get off their phone, or just so long as they're not distracting anyone, do you just kind of let it happen, It even depends on a student by student basis, really. And finally, making a sermon presentation can help keep students' attention. Even something as simple as including slides with the scripture reading to make sure everyone reads it, because let's be honest, if someone gets bored, they're more likely to look up the screen and read the scripture that's on it than unfortunately look down at their Bible and read the scripture. And you'd rather them look at their Bible, but if it's between them reading on the screen or not reading it at all, you'd rather them read it. And then including visuals like pictures, as I've put throughout this presentation, or short videos can help keep interest. And then connecting with them can be what really makes them want to get plugged in and become in a church. I think the head youth pastor should always be available. Obviously, sometimes they got to sleep, and there's very rare occasions where they can't be available, but I think almost always they should be. Franklin says youth groups exist to establish meaningful relationships for the purpose of helping the student grow in their relationship with the Lord, which I think just summed it up really nice. They are there to grow in their relationship, and you are there to help them grow in that relationship. I think it should also be clear, not just the head youth pastor, but anyone on staff or any of the volunteers need to be readily available as well. Um, And then not everything you do as a youth group has to be church related necessarily. Like I said, you could just be going to see a movie, laser tag. My church has done laser tag, mini golf. It just spending time together as a group can help the students bond not only with the leaders but with their fellow students, which if they feel that they have friends there, they're more likely to want to come back, obviously. And then finally, they must be equipped for what comes after high school, college, the workforce, their secular friends. They need to understand what they should and should not do and why. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Pretty simple. That's exactly what youth group is about. Um, you must also let them know that they can always reach out even after they have graduated from the youth group. McGarry says youth ministry is for adolescence, the family is for life, the church is for eternity. And sometimes you'll get so close that you feel like family, like you will want to be connected for life. Um, and then finally, you need to encourage them that even though they may mess up, they can never be too far gone. God will always take them back, and they should not be afraid to admit their mistakes. So, in conclusion, a good youth group environment is beneficial to the development and or continuation of a teenager's walk with God. But for this to happen, four things need to happen first. They need to come to church in the first place. They need to pay attention to what is being taught. They need to get connected and be equipped for life post high school. Um, the students must play an active role in this journey, but so must the leaders. So only then can the students have a fruitful walk with the Lord. Thank you.